Greetings, naughty goblins. This is Drea, and I am here to show you a start to finish video of Belle and Gaston. Okay, so starting off here, you can see I've got all my references. I took a pose from my drawing of Rick and Evie. That's the major pose you see under there, and the kissing pose is one that I had saved on Pinterest. I'm not gonna draw over that there. I'm just gonna kind of use it as a reference for head positioning. So as you can see, I've got Gaston's profile. I played with it in a few ways to try and get that angle on his head exactly right. So that's what you see me changing there now, and also trying to make him look a little less like Elvis. When his hair is pushed back like that, that ends up what's happening. I'm drawing in Belle's face, kind of the old school way. Looking at my references again there. I want to make sure their faces look right. And now I'm going to change up everything else here. Put in her hair. I'm dealing with my old pose, removing arms, changing them around to where I want to be. I know in advance that I want him to be doing like a bridal carry with one arm, because his arms are so huge. I thought that would be fun. And having holding out the book that he just snatched out of her hands. So that's what I'm trying to do. I always reuse things when they're appropriate and useful. So like here I'm doing a little Belle sketch of her hair. I've done that 1,000 times, so it's pretty easy from memory to know kind of where her bangs would fall when her hair is back, that kind of thing. So in this situation, her size compared to Gaston is very different than Rick and Evie's size, so I have to change up her size in relation to, his chest area and all that. And you saw me just click over to an old drawing I did of Gaston for the boudoir, and there was an arm there I could reuse because he has very specific arms. So there you see me reusing a hand and an arm from two different places. I kind of stick them together and then redo everything till it works. So that's what I'm doing with the whole pose. I'm kind of just thinking what looks good, what looks natural, and what will be most dynamic with the whole composition in the end. So now I'm playing with her legs and making sure that the proportions are right. I always focus a lot on proportions. The way I think about it is like, if this person were to morph into real life, would it look terrifying? Another really great trick that I learned at some point was hands should be roughly the size of the character's face, which was insanely helpful. Sometimes obviously you want to exaggerate, but that has been generally a very good yardstick. So at this point, I'm trying to work out how I want him snatching the book out of the way. I was thinking originally really far out of the way, but then I was like, well, then we can't get as close up on their faces as I'd like. So I went ahead and I'm sketching in old school way his arm, because I need it foreshortened, and that is almost impossible to get a reference of from the animated movie. So I did though snag his hand, snatching the book from the animated movie, and now I'm just doing his foreshortened arm, and I thought it would be fun if he had his gloves on. So that's what I'm changing here. If the curve isn't right, it's gonna look weird, so I play around with that quite a bit, and I need to make his hand bigger so it looks like it's coming out towards you. Now what I'm doing is I'm taking the whole pose and getting it how I want it to look on the print, so about how zoomed in I want to be. And the reason why I'm doing this now is because I don't want to draw too much. I want to zoom in first so I don't draw his knees really lovingly and then, oh damn it, we zoomed in past the knees anyway. So I'm just trying not to waste time, essentially. So now I'm just shaping out his body there. I do a lot with my blur tool. That's kind of like pushing around paint with your fingers. It's just really intuitive for my brain. So I'm changing the color, to remind myself he has gloves on. A lot of part of the reason why I like adding color into my sketches is because if I just get going with the lines, my brain turns off and I will forget. A great example is in this piece. I drew out her slip, and in the end, I totally forgot it was there because I closed that layer. You'll see that happen later. So what I'm doing to add his drawers is I'm just selecting that area of his body and changing the color on it so they look really nice and fit. And then I just know that they're there. I know I want a little stripe of yellow there to look kind of like his clothes. I'm shaping up the book with my blur tool. I'm kind of transforming the sizes of things, sketching in the hair a little bit just to make sure that everything looks like it's ready to draw or the proportions are good. One last thing I almost always do is I take the whole thing, and I think you'll see me do it here in a second, where I lean the characters one way or another. I'm still working on some details here. These are some roses that I took from the last Belle and Gaston picture. Work smart, not hard. I already did some roses, so I'm putting them back here and I'm curving them the way I need them to go to make a garter belt because I thought that would be cute. And trying to figure out which way a garter would go in this pose, but in my head I'll remember that there's stockings there, but I also didn't trust myself to do that, so I'm coloring in her stockings. I can't be trusted to remember anything. Finishing his hair, I want to make it look like flowy and dynamic. I've got this kind of cascading towards the diagonal of the frame that I just gravitate towards that composition a lot. I don't know why. I like it. It's a good one. I thought it would be funny if the book was Beauty and the Beast. Ain't I a stinker? Okay, so that's all done. Now it's time for the line work. The line work is my favorite part because I can turn off my brain listening to podcasts, watching my stories, my audiobooks, and the line work is my favorite bit. So it's not just tracing over what is already there. It's adding a lot and changing a lot as you go. So it's not a totally dead brain thing, but I've just done it so much that it's a relaxing process at this point. So you can see like his hair was just a big black section of color, and now I am going through and adding in the lines of his hair. And if you if you zoom in close to their faces or their hair, the bodies, you can see I'm changing lines as I go just to make it more smooth, make some lines more weighty than others. And the line work process played back is generally very relaxing to watch. This is about 3 hours or so of active drawing time. It probably took me more like 5 hours when you add in interruptions, bathroom breaks, etc. So it's still a 20-minute video even when I did speed it up by 1,000%. So you guys get long videos. Deal with it. I'm coloring in his hair. Sometimes I like to color in the black parts, the really dark bits while I'm sketching, just because it makes me see the silhouette a little better. Working on his arms. Recording myself has made me realize that I make this little clicky noise with my tongue, like that, every time I finish a thought. I used to go back and edit it out, but now I have no time, so it's your problem now. Oh my god. So the line work I just use one type of pen because too many choices makes my brain die. So my line work I always do with one type of pen. I do, the dynamic lines. I will, if it's a long curve, you'll see me go back many, many, many times to get that curve right. And when I'm drawing, I've got one finger on the undo button and I hit it constantly, just constantly. Nope, 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 nope. When I'm doing the lines, that's why they look in great speed, they look kind of halted, I think that's why I'm constantly hitting the undo button to get that line exactly right. I want it to look really fluid and not squiggly in any way, and to, sometimes it takes a few tries. When I know an area is going to be done in black specifically, I will add another layer of lines. I'll have the layer that's black lines and the layer that is lines over black color. I know that sounds confusing, but like his hair is done so I can lighten the lines easily so you can see them on top of the black. Now I have to go in and redraw these little bastards. It's very rare that I'm able to reuse something to the degree of color and everything. I've been able to do it a few times, but usually you're going to have to draw over it again. So that all of the lines look of the consistent width. Otherwise it's going to look like what it looks like, which is a bad Photoshop job. I just watched a TikTok about the original animators discussing Gaston's chest hair and how it took them like many different tries to get it right, and all of the bad chest hair that was drawn, and it made me just feel better about myself and about how many times sometimes it takes to draw something that you see all the time. Getting it down in 2D is just so different. I am going over the, I'm trying to decide what accents to put on the bookends here. I always get too elaborate with it. I really should just keep it more simple. But as you can tell, that's my Achilles heel, keeping it simple. I went back over and so I'm using copy paste on each of these. Work smart, not hard. And I am using the free transform for it, which is a really, really useful tool if you need to get things in the right perspective. Now that was it, and I'm on to the color, which truthfully I find very boring. I hate doing it because it feels non-creative somehow, like I already know what color everything's gonna be. I'm not, I just don't enjoy it as much as the lines or even making the sketch. I just don't find it as satisfying. So someday maybe one of you can be my colorist. That would be great. I like doing the effects on it, which I'll show you at the end, but this part where it's just block coloring is just, it's gotten to be really boring and tedious for me because you have to get all of the little bits colored in where my lines didn't totally touch each other. The fill tool doesn't like it. You know, I've tried all the settings. It's just, it's one of the imperfections of digital art, but coloring, you know, everybody loves it. It's relaxing and wonderful, but I don't know. For me, it's just like, oh, get it done. It's because I do this for my job. So what I'm doing now is just getting in the basic color. The way I do it is I'm going to color them like they are in the cartoon. Every color is going to be just very flat, like the color it quote unquote is in real life before you add any lighting effects. Such a pretty color, blue. It's my favorite color. And then I'm going to go back in and add lighting effects, which will in the end change like skin tone and all that, but my brain can't handle doing that from scratch. So the way that I do it is to color it as it would be and then let my computer do the work for me. I'm grabbing the background from my classic boudoir background and I'm cleaning it up a little bit for this one because some areas are showing that they weren't in that other one. This is my overlay that makes it look a little bit like watercolor. And now I'm going to play with the background to see kind of what tones I like for this one. Fixing that book color a little bit. I was deciding between a blue and a red, and in the end I was like, that's Gaston's color, let's do that. So I took everything I've drawn, made it darker, turned up the saturation, and now I'm erasing that layer. I just added a little magical beam from the book. It took me forever to decide what color I want it to be. I think in the end I went with like a light yellow. I decided that's where I want the light source coming from, was like the inside of the book. So that is the areas that I'm erasing are where the light is shining. So this is just the easiest way for my brain to do it. I don't know if I must have learned this when I was a kid or something, but this is part of not being classically trained, is that you just sometimes have tricks that you've come up with that might be weird, but it gets the job done. So I'm erasing all the bits where I want the light to be shining. And my sugar glider is visiting me right now and asking for cookies. Oh my goodness. I have 2 sugar gliders. It's like 1 a.m. right now. I have 2 sugar gliders and a little puppy on my lap, so living my best life. That's why it's hard to get work done in my house. So I always add a little shiny shine line at the border of a lot of things. It really adds a lot of depth. I feel to the bodies, it kind of just gives a little more realness. Ooh, so now you can see I'm changing the tone of that entire layer with my color balance here. So I'm going to do that with the top layer and the bottom, and that really makes everything pop. And you can see how pink her skin is, how her stockings look a different color, her hair. If I had to do that from scratch out of my mind, I would die. That's too complicated. I realized at the end here, I forgot that, see, I told you I would forget it. I let that slip my mind. You're welcome. So I'm adding a little transparent layer there to go under those lines, and then I lighten them up. It kind of makes it look like sheer kind of fabric. So, man, that was a fast 17 minutes when you're talking at full speed the whole time. I hope you liked it, you guys. I will see you on the next one.